And if that is true, and if there's any visual separation, the next answer in most cases is go as fast as you possibly can. When you're in the habit of driving fast, you have to sort of develop protocols. And if you begin a drive with sort of a schema of what you're going to do in the event that something goes sideways, it makes you at least have a better chance of making a good decision in the moment. And that's how we've always approached Cannonball and everything else, is to think, all right, if this happens, then we do that. And so I was doing this Lux Rally event with Tom Park, a good friend of mine, in my Ferrari 430 Scuderia. And we've been sustaining some pretty solid speeds, generally in a pack, and that's usually a fairly safe way to drive. We're in Utah and we'd gone through Monument Valley, and you know, afterwards you kind of go through really long stretches of nothing, and then you'll find some little town, and then long stretches of nothing, and you go through some little town. And I guess we were going through a little town, and me and a guy named Chris and his BMW M6 were passing, you know, in long open spaces. We were on the walkie-talkie, staying in touch, and just kind of trying to make good time to get to our next destination. Most of us had gotten most of the good speed out of our system at this point. We'd all hit insanely high speeds. I think the day before, on our detour through Mexico, I'd hit 190 miles an hour in the 430 Scud, and so I was impressed with the car. Our backs were killing us. We were really ready for Las Vegas and a good massage. But we're going through this town in Utah. I think it's called Kanab, and me and Chris are together. I think I'm in front, and I guess we went through this small town and we passed a couple of tractor trailers that were moving obviously considerably slower than we were, and we passed them on a double yellow. It was wide open. You could see for miles in any direction, but I guess perpendicular to us, parked at some gas station, donut shop, whatever, there was a cop.
We get into this area where there were a couple trucks and we passed them. And I think one of the other vehicles might have passed in a more aggressive way, and there was a two-lane segment that blended into one, and he might have got a tire over the double yellow line. And I think there was an officer that was waiting at that exact point that must have been trying to catch people doing that, happened to see that, whatever happened. You know, we're still cruising, and next thing I know, Ed tells me, hey, I see blue lights.
Between me and that cop, there was Chris in the M6 and the Porsche 911 Turbo. And this guy in the 911 had been driving it very, very hard. I think he ended the rally with 5 different windshield cracks, all the paint off the front of his car, his tires bald. I mean, he got everything that he possibly could out of this car. And he had also been pulled over with me in Texas. And so we'd both gotten into a warning there. And so I was like, you know, I'm in front. Generally, that means you're the scapegoat in this circumstance, but maybe he's just going to pull over one of the cars that's behind me. And so I kept moving, but this is where you kind of have to fall back on these ideas of what am I going to do if there's a cop. And in general, the first thing that you do is evaluate, is there any plausible deniability that I have in this moment that I might not be the person that this cop is looking for? And if that is true, and if there's any visual separation, the next answer in most cases is go as fast as you possibly can.
So Ed says, hey, I think they're coming up for me. What should I do? Should I just drop off over here real quick? And I said, you know, that's the kind of moment where you don't hesitate. You either commit to going a different way and seeing what happens, or you can say, well, I'll for sure go to jail, or maybe not. I just said, yes, do it without thinking, just as a reflex.
And so I dart off into a trailer park on the side of this road in Utah and make a couple of quick turns down, and then I find myself dead-ended into a cul-de-sac, which wouldn't be that big of a deal because I was a good bit off the road. But of course, this bright white BMW M6 with extremely apparent rally stickers immediately follows me. And while my gray 430 with, you know, some darker stickers may have gotten away with it, seeing 2 cars jet off was not gonna let that happen. Finally, we're stopped, and we're not gonna be able to go any further. Fortunately, Tom said, Ed, open the deck lid. And we can at least claim that the cars were overheating, because the M6 absolutely was overheating periodically on this trip. And so we open it up, we start checking the oil, pretending like we needed to stop, and before too terribly long, a Jeep Wrangler cop pulls up right behind us. And he is immediately very, very mad. And of course, he jumps into the, you know, let's not pretend like you don't know why I pulled over here. And I'm like, why did you pull over here? We're here to, you know, cool our cars down. And we start talking, and he's like, no, you guys just blew past me, illegally passing these trucks. And I'm like, well, if you say so, and we're just trying to make good time. And like any cop should, he's trying to make me confess to some terribly illegal act of automotive negligence, and I am resisting his prompting to do so. I'm like, if that's what you're saying we did, I'm not here to argue with you, but trust me that we're not out here trying to break any speed records today. And so he keeps on, and by this time, there was a cop we'd passed probably 20 miles earlier that had pulled over another car, and we hadn't passed him at too much speed, but I guess there had been some police scanner activity, and he had decided to pull over as well. So we've got another jurisdiction's cop there as well, and everybody's kind of crowding around. And so Tom's still in the car, fortunately able to snap a few pictures, and me and Chris, the BMW driver, are out of the cars already, and we're talking to the cops. And he's immediately pretty hostile and asking us what we're doing. And fortunately, since I've been involved with the Cannonball Memorial Run, that is an immediate, an obvious, and very, very helpful first kind of line of defense. Like, we're here to raise money for the families of fallen officers, talk about the charity, talk about the drives we do, talk about working with the Attorney General to bring awareness to this cause and everything that we've done. And that is fortunately a terrific icebreaker. So I always keep those stickers on my cars for these types of events, and anything you can do there, all the way down to police benevolence fund cards, anything that you can do is a great way to start. To say, look, we're not here to be hostile to law enforcement. We're here to make sure that everybody's out here being as safe as possible. But yes, we love cars, and we're here trying to have fun. And so that starts to break the ice, but obviously still, you know, we're here trying to convince him that we were not trying to run away from him, because that becomes a much higher offense. And you know, I will say there have been a lot of circumstances in my driving career like this, where I have seen that there was enough separation to justify trying to get a few turns away and then hope nobody knows where we went. I have never seen a cop, known it was for me, and then no holds barred run as fast as I can to try to purposefully evade a cop. There are plenty of people who have done that. We turn down most of those stories here at VINwiki because that's not the type of narrative that we're trying to put forth. But you know, in this kind of hazy medium between whether or not they were after you and whether or not you might be able to find a place they aren't looking, that's where I kind of draw the line. And so that's obviously what we've done here, but that could still very well be construed as evasion, and that is a very terrible crime to be convicted of. And so I'm trying to at least deflect all logic and questioning away from that conclusion, and we continue to talk. And it turns out he spends most of his time, this cop, on like a search and rescue team, and we talk about how beautiful Utah is and all the stuff that we'd seen and all the driving roads that we'd seen and just how privileged they must be to be able to enjoy these roads on a daily basis. We talk about the parts of this country and parts of the state that he is patrolling and what that means, and ask him for his stories. What's the last thing you did? What's the last thing you had to search or rescue for? And as long as you keep them talking, as we've said before, that works really well. There's plenty of people who say, shut your mouth and don't talk to cops, but that's exactly how you get the worst version of whatever they think you just did. If you want to get out of it, if you want to get it down, the best thing to do is keep talking. And so we're talking to him and, talking about the cars, showing him around, saying, oh, do you want to see it? And first of all, they want to go back. They want to look at our license, check for warrants and all the things that cops usually do. Make sure there's insurance in place and all that. And fortunately, all of that was copacetic. Nothing to worry about in those terms, but we still need them to continue to de-escalate their perception of what this situation is. So at this point, he's obviously accused us of going, I think, 100, 110-ish past these trucks, but obviously he didn't have his radar on, so that's his visual estimate, and that he is permitted to visually estimate speed. So whether or not it could be disproven in court, I didn't want to have to get Ticket Clinic to go back to another state on my behalf later after this rally to make up for it. And so we're continuing to talk, and a third jurisdiction, I don't know, we had like county, state trooper, sheriff's department, everybody's there, and obviously they've gotten a lot of calls about cars with these types of stickers driving through their respective jurisdictions. And so we're talking, and the higher rank you find someone, in most cases, the more lenient they're going to be, particularly if they can kind of flex on the lower jurisdiction people. So that's actually what really helped us in Texas, was that the sheriff showed up. And so he obviously doesn't like the state troopers trying to pass out tickets in his jurisdiction. And so he started kind of on our behalf. He's a car guy, loved what we were doing, loved the cars. And he starts kind of advocating for this guy to just let us go. And I think that's really what carried the day. Eventually, he felt like since he had to clear his VASCAR every time he noticed a speed, that he had actually forgotten exactly what my speed was by the time he got to the third car, which, you know, he does need to honestly be able to remember in order to give me the ticket. And so I don't know if it was him finally feeling lenient or if that was true. Regardless, I'm eternally grateful to that fine officer in the state of Texas. And my hope was that we could reach a similarly lenient conclusion with these guys in Utah. And so the more people show up, the more people we're kind of talking to and explaining all the great times that we'd had, not speed related on this rally, just enjoying the scenery, enjoying the camaraderie, enjoying just the beautiful roads amongst friends.
Ed gets out of the car, is talking casually to these guys, and I'm thinking to myself, they're about 20 feet away. I'm trying to listen and look in the rear view while staying in the passenger seat. I'm thinking, you know, am I going to be driving this Scuderia, or, you know, getting bail, or what am I going to be doing here? What's happening? The cop didn't say anything at all about us turning right and going down another street. He didn't say anything about the faster vehicles. And I don't know what he said, but I'm sitting there sweating bullets for 20 minutes in the passenger seat while Ed is taking them from their body language. I could tell their composure had changed from hostile to curious to kind of listening to being very receptive. And then next thing I know, I can see that the cop, you know, Ed's telling jokes and using hand gestures, and I see the cop laughing. And I'm thinking, I don't know what that guy is being told, but I want to know that so I can say that too.
Eventually, that we find out that the rest of the rally crew has come through. We had been kind of pretty well out in front, and they had managed to all get pulled over collectively at a gas station about a mile up the road. And so they tell us, well, all your friends are waiting for you. They're just a little ways up the road, which was reassuring, except for I don't know exactly what they just got caught doing. It may have been worse than what we were trying to do. And so if that's the case, then it may reduce, you know, their willingness to be flexible with us. Finally, he comes back and he's like, I can't believe I'm letting y'all off so easy. And I'm like, well, trust me, I can't either, and we will slow down. We'll be as respectful as we possibly can, and trust us, we're eternally grateful. And so he ends up not even writing it up, just hands our license and insurance cards back and tells us to slow down and go on our merry way. And we continue on up the road, and there are cops about every mile for the next, I don't know, rest of the state. And we continue to just go as close to the speed limit as our speedometers will allow us to define. And we make it to the gas station where the rest of the people were stopped and kind of mosey our way on out of it. But I don't know that we made any friends with these Utah law enforcement officers, but at the very least, I think we got away with as much as we possibly could. Whether you're packing for a cannonball or just going about your day, it's important to just carry what you actually need. The Ridge has a line of wallets and bags that help you to do just that. Leave the junk at home and just make sure that you've always got exactly what you need with you. So be sure to check out ridge.com/VINwiki and use the code VINwiki at checkout for a discount to let them know how much you appreciate their support of the VINwiki channel.